What's up, everybody? It is Ebontis, and it is February 7th. Count those days. We've got 3 weeks left until Lightfall drops, and you know I will be there, so if you don't follow me over on Twitch, come follow me over there, or if you're not subscribed here, lots of videos coming your way. That being said, we get a deep dive into Strand. We kind of knew this was coming, just not sure when, and I'm not going to go through and read the entire article. It's on Bungie.net. You can read it. I'm going to hit the highlights. But before I actually go through any of the text, I want to show you the trailer. Then I'm going to go through, we're going to explain the abilities, talk about them, and then we're going to go back into the trailer and do little pauses and explanations so you can kind of see most of what we talk about here in the articles. So first thing, let me play the trailer.
Strand flows through you as it flows through everything. Now is the time to lean into using Strand, not back away from it. Embrace where the current takes you.
All right, so as usual, pretty epic trailer, no question about it. But there's actually a lot to unpack in that like minute and 41 seconds. So let's go back to the article, and I want to kind of read through everything, and then we're going to watch through that trailer again and basically break it all down. So basically they said, with Strands, Guardians will be wielding the fabric of the universe in ways that will be a formidable threat to anyone who stands in their way. So you can have fun with all the body text, but threads make a Guardian. And this is honestly one of the cooler pictures, just because, one, it's a really cool rendering, but two, this is one of our better looks at the scale and size of a Tormentor. We've seen them a little bit in the trailers. We get to see that they're like large and threatening, but like outside of maybe a weak spot on the stomach, maybe the eye, but their size and scale versus us is a little terrifying, and I'm actually excited to see them in the game. So that will be a very interesting moment. So they say, think of an era where no explosion was too big. They're basically talking about 80s action movies and all that fun stuff. But it's funny, they said the team had concepts for the damage. They called it damage type 5, which again, maybe there's a damage type 6. Maybe this is the end of the damage type. Who knows? But they said they had a lot of conversations around where the Strand concept weaves came from and trying to reinforce the physical language for how it manifests and how it looks. And to make it feel like the same darkness as Stasis. So basically you've got light, which is like power. You've got the void, the solar, the arc, and like solar is like capturing the power of the sun. Arc is like literally the electricity of the gods. You've got void, which is, you know, just coming from the voids of the ether. So you have all these like crazy light powers, and they wanted darkness, it sounds like, to be more physical. They had cosmic ice, which at some point was related to time, by the way, which it's somewhere in this description, but I'm probably not going to reread it. Stasis was almost maybe like slowing down or something, which would have been interesting, but they want them to be a bit more physical. So we've got the Strand with the threads of time, the cosmic ice, and maybe there's a third one down the road. Maybe there's not. I just wouldn't hold your breath for a subclass with the final shape. That's all I'm saying. Cool ideas, though, if you want to get a little more backstory into it. Fun stuff is the definitions. So we get to, first one is suspend. So a suspended PvE enemy is lifted off the ground for a brief duration and is essentially disabled. So they're basically hovering in the air, kind of just stuck. In PvP, suspended players are lifted off the ground, but can still move slowly and fire their weapons. I think it's hip fire only to fight back. Second thing is, and this is where everybody's like, oh god, PvP is going to be broken. It may, but honestly, there's an article from PC Gamer. I'll kind of touch on that in the end, so don't leave the video early. There's stuff from the PC Gamer article that's cool. But they basically say they want stuff to be fun and exciting, and they do that intentionally because they don't want to bring out something that's boring, and they probably will have to pull it back, but we will see. Second one is unravel. Attacking an unraveled enemy will cause threads to burst out of the target and attack other nearby targets. Once hit, that target will also become unraveled. So unraveled is anything that is basically touched by Strand. So if you read it up here, I'm kind of getting out of order. To understand Strand, let's first start with some of the vocabulary. Sorry, doing this out of order. Creating an object using Strand is weaving, hence the weaving threads of the fabric of the universe. Defeating an enemy by Strand will unravel them. Disconnecting the life force with weave. So if you defeat an enemy via Strand, they will unravel. You're going to disconnect their life force from the weave and create a tangle. Tangle's the little orb we saw in the trailer last week. Left behind after a Strand debuffed enemy is defeated, a tangle is a swirling bundle of Strand fibers. These bundles of Strand explode when shot, so you can't just shoot them with anything and they explode, causing a damage to nearby enemies, or area damage to nearby enemies. Guardians can also pick up tangles and throw them to deadly effect. So now, unravel is basically when you kill them by Strand, will cause the threads to burst out and attack other nearby targets. And then once hit, that target will now become unraveled. And then you're also going to basically have that chaining effect happen. So unraveling will be cool. Sever. A severed enemy is less capable of affecting the material world because you're severing them. This is basically a This is the way of saying weaken without saying weaken, by the way. A severed enemy is less capable of affecting the material world, reducing their damage output as a result. So they won't be as strong on the output. Now, they said the major buff coming in Strand is called Woven Mail. With this ability, Guardian is sheathed in a protective mesh of Strand matter, reducing incoming damage. So that's kind of like an overshield, but not. So it'll be your green overshield. Note that in PvP, Woven Mail will only reduce body damage. Head damage and melee damage will continue as normal. So I think they were probably like, hey, if you get damage resistance that easily in PvP, then you're a little hard to kill. Well, headshots are going to be even more critical. And if you can hit your headshots, Woven Mail won't be that good. So at high level play, people very good at hitting their headshots, Woven Mail will probably be less beneficial. Average user, basic Iron Banner could be more fun. Very cool picture, though. So you got a Titan Hunter on the back here. You've got the Shadow Legion, Warlock up here. That's being shot. Some Scions in the background. War Beasts. This is more on concept art. Very cool artist rendering, though. Kind of just really enjoying the art that they're putting into this one. And just the style. The purple, the Neomuna, the whole waveform situation is pretty cool. So they talk about the grapple in this thwip section. And basically, this is probably the best sentence to understand it. So, one, they will say, Strand is going to be a subclass that has a high actions per minute. And actions per minute comes from like strategy games where people are able to do so many functions with hotkeys and keyboards. And picture something like StarCraft or an old RTS game where you're doing so many things within a minute, which raises the skill level because the faster you are at doing all of your different tasks, like I got to build enemies over here and move these over here and do all these different things, the more things you do in a minute, obviously the more effective of a player that you're going to be. But this sentence really puts it together. Smith picks up the thought and runs with it. I defeat an enemy with my melee ability. They unwind into a tangle. I grapple to the tangle, and since you grapple to a tangle, it refunds your grapple. And the grapple is going to take up your grenade slot, by the way. So there will be grenades that you can use, or the grapple will also have its own thing with like kind of a grapple punch. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Anyway, so grapple to the tangle, refund the grapple. And I snatch the grapple out of midair, then I hurl the tangle at a group of enemies in the distance. You grapple onto the tangle that you just threw while it flies through the air, pulling me behind it. And as the tangle nears the group of enemies, I slam downward, probably a hunter because I have a slam, out of my grapple to suspend a lone enemy who split off from the group, while the tangle slams into the rest of enemies and explodes. So that's the idea. It's literally like kill an enemy, create a tangle, grapple towards the tangle, and then grab the tangle as you go by, chunk it, grapple at it again. As it flies to the enemies that you threw it at, you grapple onto it and you're flying through the air. You got an enemy off to the side, you slam down next to it, the tangle gets over there. Again, this gives them an idea of a subclass that is a higher skill ceiling, which is exciting, but a lot of the basic stuff you're still going to be able to do, but putting the combinations of things together is where it sounds fun. So that's just one of those, like when you read through that, it sounds really cool, so it's going to be kind of a fun thing to pull off. And again, the stuff that they pull off, just cannot wait for some of the clips and things that people pull off with this subclass. It's going to be a little crazy. Anyway, Warlock, Broodweaver. So they are the master of all things, but they are also going to they're going to be the master of threadlings. So these are going to be these little guys. Threadlings are explosive minions woven in strand matter. The Warlock Brood Reaver, being the cerebral type, is more in tune with Threadlings than other classes. All Threadlings will run forward, jump onto enemies, and explode. But only the Warlock's Threadlings will return to the Warlock and travel with them if they can't find a target. So basically, let's just say I have 3 Threadlings, 2 enemies to kill. I'm a Warlock, the last one comes back, jumps on my shoulder, and it basically becomes a perching. Now, sounds kind of cute, but yeah, I'll show you almost everything in here is shown in the trailer, so I'll give you guys an example. But yeah, basically Warlocks excel at summoning and wielding Threadlings. That's one of their biggest things. Also, with their strand melee attack, Warlocks cast Arcane Needle, a deadly projectile which tracks targets. So tracking will be nice, causing high damage and unraveling them upon impact. Warlocks be able to quickly chain 3 Arcane Needles in a row. And that's the thing for all the subclasses. They all basically have a triple melee kind of. The Hunters is a bit different, but they're all going to be able to like go after multiple targets. So, Warlocks, 2 aspects. Weaver's Call. On Riftcast, the Warlock weaves 3 Threadling eggs. Basically, just picture like the rift goes down, and you'll see these little things pop out. Those will hatch upon, hitting any surface, and they are going to turn into Threadlings and go chase after targets. Cool. Any perched Threadlings, and it looks like you can have at least like up to 5. So in theory, you can have 8 come down on 1 rift cast. So if you have 3 that you've saved up, and then all of a sudden you throw, or you've got 5 you've saved up, and then all of a sudden you throw your rift down, you've got 8 Threadlings going out to do some stuff. Pretty cool. Second one is Mind Spun Invocation. This aspect improves several of the Warlock's abilities. The grapple, when you execute a grapple melee, so they call it a grapple melee or grapple punch. Basically, if you grapple towards an enemy and finish with a melee when you're like towards the end, you're going to kind of do a punch that's also going to like sever them and weaken stuff. It's actually pretty cool. The Warlock weaves 3 Threadling eggs from the target. So if you execute a grapple melee and you punch and kill them, you're going to basically pop 3 eggs out of them, and so that one actually sounds pretty cool. Excuse me. Then we've got the Threadling Grenade and the Shackle Grenade. So these are a couple of different grenades that you can equip instead of your grapple, by the way. The Threadling Grenade, you can consume your Threadling Grenade to generate a full complement of perched Threadlings. So you can literally just take your Threadling Grenade, consume it, like Warlocks usually do with a lot of their grenades. Now you got 5 things perched around you, drop your rift, and there's 8. So if you want to do that kind of thing, you definitely can. Shackle Grenade, you can consume your Shackle Grenade to gain a buff, creating a suspending detonation on every kill. So you can consume a Threadling Grenade, you can also consume a Shackle Grenade, and that basically gives you like strand ammo in a sense, and we'll show that that's towards the front of the trailer, where you create a suspending detonation on every kill. So if you get a kill, it's going to cause suspension around the others, and then it just can kind of chain around. Warlock's telekinesis ability with their super Needle Storm, a deadly combination of burst damage and area denial. On cast, the Warlock conjures strand matter into hardened spikes, launches them forward, and then the missiles will stick into enemies and the environment alike before detonating and reweaving them into an army of Threadlings that will hunt down any survivors. So you're going to launch this projectile, like this group of hardened spike projectiles. It's going to go into the enemies, probably kill them, detonate, and then it's going to detonate into an army of Threadlings that are going to go off and do more things. So it's kind of like a 2-phase super, which actually pretty cool. Hunter Thread Runner. So the Thread Runner is all about mobility, the midair use, the rope dart. They have more uses out of the grapple. They definitely get to take advantage of that. And this one, we've got the Thread Runner's melee attack, so Threaded Spike. Has a hunter hurling out a rope dart that bounces between enemies, damaging and severing them, which severing, again, remember, is weakening, before returning to the hunter. Upon its return, it grants melee energy for each enemy hit. Hunters can catch the rope dart by pressing melee input at the right time. Perfecting that timing will earn player an additional amount of energy. So kind of a little mini game, kind of like a perfect reload in other games. If you catch the melee coming back, and there's even, I'll show you guys where that one's at too, like frame by frame. If you catch it, you're going to get more melee energy back so you can keep using it. Couple aspects for the hunter. Ensnaring Slam. Saw that in the trailer. I'll show you again. While in the air, press the air move input to slam downward, suspending all nearby enemies. So basically you're going to suspend them in the air, and they're kind of immobilized and useless. And if you take the Ballistic Slam of the Titan and other slams, this one basically like really good crowd control, kind of locks him down for a minute. The other one is Widow's Silk. This aspect grants an additional grenade charge. Now, your grenade also is your grapple, so think about it that way too. The Hunter's grapple ability creates a persistent grapple when it latches. So if you throw a grapple even into thin air, it's going to create a persistent grapple tangle, which other people can use. So this is going to be beneficial for kind of group mobility. Which fully refunds grenade energy when grappled to it. So if you grapple to like a specific grapple tangle, your grapple is instantly refunded, so you can use it an additional time. Hunters can use this ability to set up chains of multiple grapple points that their entire team can use, greatly enhancing their ability to quickly move around the combat or traverse the environment. So honestly, I picture Hunters being the first ones to just like break the environment game. So we'll see how that goes, but that's a thing. So the lethal combination of a grapple and rope dart converge in the Threadrunner super, Silk Strike. When activated, the Hunter uses their grapple to freely move through the world in third-person view, while also throwing their rope dart to strike down enemies. Hunters will be able to use grapple more often during super, and the rope dart features both a light and heavy attack. The light attack is meant for single opponents, and can be used in the air, on the ground. When on the ground, the Hunter can chain attack seamlessly, just bam, bam, bam. Hitting an enemy with the tip of the dart deals bonus damage, so I don't know if you got to be at the right range, or specifically how that works. And defeating an enemy with it causes the enemy to explode, which we do kind of see in the trailer. The heavy attack, which we've probably seen in a previous trailer, I don't think it's in this one, has the Hunter swing the rope dart around in a 360-degree arc, damaging all nearby enemies. As with the light attack, this can be used on the ground or the air. So you can spin in the air, but that's probably less effective, I would imagine. Titan Berserker. The hulking mass of a Guardian stands before the squad. Basically, it's all about using your blades and using them quickly, actually, is something I didn't expect. So from the start, the Strand-wielding Titan Berserker has the Untamed Power. As the subclass suggests, the Titan uses Strand in ways to ensure maximum carnage. Now, the Strand melee ability for the Titan is Frenzied Blade. With a press of the melee button, Titan dashes forward and slashes at enemies with their Strand arm blades, severing victims, so you're going to weaken them again, and decreasing their damage output, which is basically what I meant. With a default set of 3 charges, notice default. Maybe that changes with exotics. Maybe that changes with aspects, fragments, who knows. Titans can change these slashes together for maximum damage. They also state the first one is slower, but you can use them in quicker succession. So it's like 1, 2, 3. Like, they can actually get closer together. So Titans will have a couple of aspects into the fray. Destroying a tangle weaves woven mail onto the Titan and nearby allies. So if you destroy a tangle, you're going to get that like damage resistance mail on you. In addition to reducing damage taken, this aspect also increases the Titan's melee energy regeneration while wearing woven mail. Now, I don't know how long woven mail lasts. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, who knows? Overshields are about 15, so I don't imagine it's going to be too OP, but we'll see. And then we got Dringer's Rat Lash, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing. When the Titan casts their class ability, the Titan will blast forward a powerful ripple in reality, they called them lashes, suspending enemies that are caught in the shockwave's path. And last week we saw the exotic where it does 3 instead of 1. So that actually could be potential, but again, also people are saying it's basically Khepri's Horn, but better. So Khepri's Horn is even worse now, so we'll see what that does. The Titan Berserker Super, Blade Fury. Sees the Titan dual-wielding fist blades and roaming the battlefield with ill intent. The Super's light attack is a supercharged version of the Frenzy Blade. Oh, okay. Never mind. So the Frenzy is the same speed. Had this backwards. And then the light attack is a supercharged version of which each attack that connects increases the next attack's speed, which tops out after a max of 3 hits. So it's 1, 2, 3, and you can just swing. Like, you can really start covering some ground and also really putting in some work. In addition, connecting with light attacks also builds energy for the Super's heavy attack. With each hit, the heavy attack Titan hurls a pair of projectiles forward. So it's kind of like a big, if you picture like almost like Wolverine doing a big X in front of him. I think that's kind of the animation we've seen. And they seek out enemies, suspending and damaging them on impact. So you've got both range, kind of quick melees in succession, and then you can throw the big projectile out in front of you, which is cool. I still am going to be curious if I'd like, this does sound better than Stasis. As me, a Titan, Stasis didn't really hit too well for me. Hopefully this one does a little bit better. Finally, we got some thread fragments. So activating your grenade ability reloads your equipped weapon and grants increased handling and airborne effectiveness. Again, they're definitely playing this into the PvP style. Thread of Fury. Defeating a target with a tangle grants melee energy. So if you chunk a tangle or explode it, you're going to get some melee energy. Finishers grant thread links. Now that is actually kind of interesting. I like the idea of that, especially if you run up, finish one guy, 3 more come out. As long as the thread links can't kill you, I'm good. And then picking up an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail. So more of a survival thing if you're going for an Orb of Power build. Picking up those on a frequent basis gets you your Woven Mail. And again, also having you do other things. So, from enemies seeking threadlings, minions to bombastic supers to game-changing new mobility options, Strand is bringing a host of unique abilities to every Guardian's arsenal. So the last thing I want to do, I know this video is getting a little long, but stick with me. I want to play the video again, and then we're going to touch on a couple of highlights from the PC Gamer article. I'll just show you guys on screen. But let me get back to the trailer real quick, and we'll look at it one more time. Now, as we go through the trailer, this time I'm going to try and pause and point out as much as I can that we just talked about. I also like Osiris is involved in this, which is cool. Okay, so this is the grenade that they throw on the ground, and that's the one that's going to turn into... Sorry, it's a little pixelated. It's going to turn into the threadlings on the ground. Actually, no, that's the suspension one. So that's the actual, and I'm probably going to get my names wrong, so I just want to make sure I get some of these right. That is called the shackle grenade. So that's the one where you throw it, and the grenade sounds like it's basically going to explode and suspend them in air, and basically shackle them and suspend them. And a reminder, we've got suspend, unravel, and sever.
As it flows through everything.
So this is the Titan melee, the frenzied edge. I already just read it and I forgot what they were called. Frenzied blade. I was close. So there's your 3.
Now
so again, everybody gets basically a triple. So this is the hunter.
Not back away from
Love that rope dart. Now, that's the warlock. They are consuming their grenade. And remember, when they do that, they're going to get the ability to... This is the one where they consume the shackle grenade, and that every time they get a kill, they create the suspension. So kill 1, 2 are suspended in the air, and that's their triple little dart. I forget what's actually called. These things are bolded, and they're still not that easy for me to find. But yeah, that's their triple melee. I'm forgetting the name of it at the moment, but I just said it. It's like Arcane Needle. So here's the Warlock Super. This one is called Needle Storm. So it throws down a bunch of needles. You can actually see they look long and slender. They land, and then you have all these little threadling swarm that just goes out and kills everything. So that's the Warlock. Here we're going to get into the Titan, and this is going to be the Titan aspect of Dringer's Lash, where he's actually going to cast his barricade, and it travels across the ground, but you'll notice it's going to travel up these stairs, and it's going to lash, or kind of suspend basically everything in front of it. That's going to actually travel up the stairs and like suspend a lot of those. And he's traveling behind it with his melee, going for those. Then casting the big super. This is Blade Fury. And remember, you can cast more and more and more. And that's the big, again, if you get those melees going, that is the actual, like you can see when we get here, as it gets a little closer. That's the double lashes that come out. And again, those are going to be tracking to enemies and other things, and also severing them. Lots of stuff happening there. That's your Hunter Slam. So that is not the Ballistic Slam, it's the Ensnaring Slam, so pretty close in name. Now I gotta make sure I get a buffer situation here, so. Because I want to show you guys as many of these frames as possible. Okay, so he does the Ballistic Slam, and then you're gonna notice this happens fast. That's why I go frame by frame. So he is going to throw the dart. You're going to see it travel forward. You can actually see it traveling to the left right now to the next enemy. And then it's actually going to have another angle kind of over here on this little edge of the screen going to another direction. And then you'll see it's actually coming around behind the enemy right now. He shoots a grenade and the thread is over here, kind of bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And you can see it coming back. And this is him literally grabbing the thread. And I guess that's probably like the visual indicator of if you actually complete the circuit, is maybe if that thread glows. So pretty cool piece there. Picks that up, and this is the grapple. Takes him all the way up here, and then here's the super. Doesn't do the 360 spin here. This is more the rope dart light attack. cool Strand image there.
Embrace where the current takes you.
And that... Okay, we got a couple more things to digest here because they go fast. So, the Threadling grenade, they mentioned one of those is like a bola. So again, the grenades, just a quick discussion about those. You have the Threadling grenade splits into 3 projectiles that weave into Threadlings upon impact. The Shackle grenade basically effectively acts as a bola. That's the thing people like would throw it like somebody running away from you's feet, cause you to trip because they basically wrap around you. And it detonates in a suspending blast. So that's the grenades we're going to see here soon.
Embrace where the current takes you.
So that's the bola. That's what I'm talking about. Probably rings a bell a little better now. And then that's the suspension blast. Now, this I got to go really slow on because it is frame by frame. So sorry about replaying some of the stuff, but it's hard to catch because it's so quick. Okay, so here's a Warlock. Now, these are the little perchlings, those little 5 things. You literally got 1 here, 1, 1, 1, 1. There's 5. Then he's going to cast his Rift. Now, it's getting a little buffery, so I apologize. Now you're going to notice all the little perchlings come out. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are all going to land. So if you do 1 rift and you have a full pack of perchings, then you're going to be able to have 8 threadlings that go forward. And that's the hunter throwing the actually it doesn't specifically have to be a hunter here. Throwing the tangle, grappling to the tangle, flying in as it lands. And that's the hunter's throwing knife and catch. So that's most of everything in there, all packed into one little video. And that's most of what I got. The PC Gamer article is also out there as well. I may do a separate video on that one. Just know that supers are going to get looked at some point. Stasis was one-time time crystals. And they go to a little bit of other stuff. They don't want it to be a huge nightmare in PvP, but they probably imagine they're a little scared of it still. But they also mentioned they've got the grapple punch. That's kind of like the grapple. Being as the grapple takes up your melee, or takes up your grenade slot, they want the grapple to still have some functionality. So if you grapple towards an enemy and then finish with a punch, you're going to like sever and do some stuff to them. Yeah, the hunters are going to be able to grapple everywhere. And then again, every subclass gets basically 3 melee charges out of it. The hunters is slightly different. It just goes after multiple enemies. And tangles are basically a replacement for Warmind cells. They just fit into more of a subclass. That's why they're deprecating those. And then same thing they reiterated before. Strand is the high actions per minute subclass. So that's a run through if you want more in there. And it also will be easier to unlock, by the way. You will not have to go through and do the stasis, weekly quest grinding of all the other things. It should mostly be completed the campaign. And then over the course of 2023, they're going to be unlocking more aspects and fragments for Strand. So that is everything we got on Strand. I know that it is a long deep dive as this is about a 30-minute video, but if you guys stuck with me to the end, thank you very much. If you enjoyed the video and the breakdown, drop a like below, leave a comment if you got questions, hopes, wonders, worries about Strand. Can't wait until we get our hands on it. Of course, you guys know I'll be breaking it down. If you want to find me over on Twitch or Twitter, it's Ebontis. Before Lightfall, I could be streaming some variety. After Lightfall, I'll be streaming basically just Lightfall and making content constantly until I can sleep ever. So if you enjoy the content, hit that subscribe button, hit the alert bell right here on the YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys in a future video. Have a good one and enjoy.